Okay, kids need superheroes because ideals, the building of ideals, comes before understanding moral complexity. And I think we've lost this as a society sometimes in what we show to kids. So, for example, the Superman that I grew up with, Christopher Reeve's Superman, was morally uncomplex. He was purely heroic. He believed in humanity. He always did the right thing, and he got the girl. Right, Lois Lane. And that is not necessarily very realistic. But for a child, it creates idealism. It creates something to aspire to and something that feels safe. And I think Reeves' Superman is a really good example of this. And also a little bit James Gunn's recent Superman. Because kids are different from adults. They develop mentally, cerebrally, at different rates. And what is really important to kids is to build ideals early. So they carry those ideals forward into adulthood. And who does that best? Well, it's superheroes. And I think we understood this before, and now we seem to need to believe that every superhero must be a bit dark, that we must explore the adult components of their nature, which is valuable in itself because that is art, that is complexity. But for kids, I don't think superheroes need to be realistic. I think they need to be aspirational, generate ideals, and generate hope. Kids are imaginative. They can believe that this pure, wonderful superhero that protects people could exist, like Christopher Reeves's Superman. And I think this creates a belief in goodness, which is lacking a little bit at the moment. Everything nowadays is morally grey, cynical, nihilistic, and even what kids are exposed to does this too. And I think this creates an unsafe grounding for children. And I think we would do a lot better to allow our kids the safe space to have morally uncomplex, superheroes that don't need moral grayness. The Punisher, Jessica Jones, all of these superheroes are artistically valuable, but I don't think they make kids feel safe the way that Christopher Reeves' Superman or previous Batmans, for example, have done so. And that's how kids learn. They learn through what they see, through the heroes that are generated. So I really think we would do a great deal of good bringing back this kind of superhero. For girls, for example, I think the recent Wonder Woman movie is really good. Not the 1984 one, but the first one. It's a very effective movie, but it portrays Diana Prince as broadly, uncomplicatedly good and heroic and standing up for the right things. And to me, these developmental stages are really important for people, right? Our early adolescence and our childhood develop the kind of person we become, our safe grounding, our moral North Star. So, from this perspective, I think overall we do not always need dark artistic complexity when it comes to what we show our kids and how we engage with them in general. And I think, as I say, if we can accept that childhood is supposed to be a joyful developmental stage where we believe the things that perhaps as adults we don't believe as much because we've had that experience. But we need that experience to understand the moral complexities that other more artistic forms of literature offer. And to my mind, we could really do a lot better by allowing children uncomplicated, aspirational, idealized models. And our society has gone too much away from just constructing black and white moral goodness to allow children to believe in some of the things that I think that they should. And I think if we do this, if we accept that children and young adolescents are in a different developmental stage from adults, and apply that in the way that what we show them and how we engage with them and how we teach them about the world and morality, you end up with happier and more secure adults that are able to form happier and more pleasing and more ideal relationships because they feel safety. They don't always believe the world is a dark place. And I think most of my generation grew up a bit more hopeful. And part of this was economic, but part of it was being raised as kids with the idea of heroes and morality and these kinds of things. We created a stronger North Star because as children, we were taught, we were shown these idealized versions. That's not to say that we should never have complications. We should never explain things about life. As people get older, as they develop, they do need to know, whether men or women, about the complexities in, I don't know, uh, truth, alcohol, sex, dating. We're not saying keep people naive forever. We're saying allow children to build a baseline of hope, aspiration, and safety with superheroes, with the icons we give them, before their mind develops to the point they can appreciate the subtleties and nuances of more complex anti-heroic characters, like, as I say, Jessica Jones, The Punisher, whoever else. These are valuable artistic tools, but we need to distinguish them from superheroes who are appropriate for children and provide them with the right ideals. And I'd say this is for men and women equally. Um, so if we can go back to just trying to accept this, trying to give kids less complicated, if you like, role models to believe in goodness, because without that, kids get anxious very quickly. If the world always feels unsafe, this generates anxiety. And I think we're doing a not the best job in general with kids at the moment because we're not understanding sometimes their developmental stages and the safety that they need and the ability to be a child, to live in the world of imagination and not to necessarily have to see every character as realistic in the real world. So that is my message for today. Let's try to give kids heroes. Let's try and make them feel safe. Let's build those ideals before we teach them the complexities of life.